This is a film study preview of the Lions-Bears matchup in Week 2 in Detroit. I'm going to talk about two players that I think have some pressure on them, either locally for the Lions or nationally, and that's Jameson Williams and Caleb Williams, as well as three coaches who have some pressure as well. Offensive and defensive coordinator for the Lions, John Morton and Kelvin Shepard, as well as Bears head coach Ben Johnson, returning to Detroit for the first time since moving on to Chicago. I do want to talk about Jameson Williams and Caleb Williams at length and show a little bit of film. I think some of the details were lost in the Jameson Williams film last week, perhaps by myself as well in some of the initial film study videos that I did. And I think it kind of can be extrapolated globally for Detroit's offense. Some of the details were lost across the board, and then things need to be sharpened up. And so from that standpoint, I think there's obvious pressure on John Morton with this much talent. Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think is one of the best football players in the league, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, as well as others, Jared Goff, a very experienced and high-level quarterback. You got to get things done eventually. Last week, the Packers played at a very high frequency and were extremely prepared, in my opinion, for many of the things that Detroit did. I'm going to propose that Jameson Williams be integrated into the game plan early and often. If it has to be design plays, so be it. Additional to that, Kelvin Shepard this week has kind of put himself out there and talked with a lot of bravado, and I think it's time to back it up. Ben Johnson has an idea of how to attack this defense. You would expect. There's a perspective, a way to look at this as if the offensive play caller coming in for the second week in a row has a great idea possibly on how to attack the Aaron Glenn / Kelvin Shepard system, if in fact it is primarily the same system. It looked like it last week from a coverage standpoint. I thought the Packers exposed a number of things structurally in Kelvin Shepard's defense. The touchdown to Terrion Arnold that was discussed apparently in the press conference, I would attribute most of the blame there to Kelvin Shepard and the system that he's set up, not allowing guys to get out of an obviously bad coverage against that formation that Green Bay showed. So with that being said, let's get to the film, and we'll start with Jameson Williams first. We'll generally spot shadow Williams in yellow at the beginning of each play. A super talented player, has a bright future, just signed a big contract. I think that last week was a poor showing for him personally and obviously for the Detroit Lions offense overall. This is the first play of the season. He's spot shadowed, like I said, in yellow. There's the line, and in the NFL, they want you back a little bit. His toes are right up with the front tip of the ball, and in fact, they might be slightly past it, and that's why he gets called for an offensive offsides. Additional to that, he's supposed to block this safety. He's supposed to go get number 20, the safety who's kind of walked into the box. It's a 12-personnel group, and the Packers appear to be in a nickel to me, and you can see that Williams has absolutely missed his block on number 20, and lo and behold, once we advance the play a little bit, who gets in there to disrupt Jahmyr Gibbs' flow, force him to bounce at number 20, the guy that Williams was assigned to block. First play of the game, first play of the season offensively, and in my opinion, you really couldn't have had a worse start from the standpoint of your alignment and what you do post-snap. Second possession, a really cool play, if you ask me, one that I'd like to see Detroit run more of or at least threaten. Williams is spot shadowed up there to the top. It's a run action with Jahmyr Gibbs. It's a run action with Jahmyr Gibbs to the top side of our screen, the left-hand side of the offense. There's a lot going on here. Jameson Williams is getting the ball, obviously, on a reverse. Laporta is kind of supposed to go lead out in front, and that doesn't end up happening here. Laporta ends up dealing with Micah Parsons. It's kind of random, if you ask me, from the standpoint of where Parsons comes from. The Lions offensive staff designed it. They're hoping that Parsons is going to chase down the line with the run action, number one. And that's not really what happens here. I don't think this is a bad play. I love the design of it. I love the fact that Laporta would be out in front of Jameson Williams. It's a great setup. And look, the reality is Edgerrin Cooper played a great football game in Week 1 for the Packers. He played extremely well against the Commanders as well. I now have about 15, 18 plays or snaps of him, and I think he's playing at a really high level. He doesn't make the tackle here. Jameson Williams is able to get around him. And again, the attention to details. That was unfortunate. I saw that play and I was like, okay, all we got to do is beat that guy, which you don't know live when you're watching it. Is it a safety? Is it an inside linebacker? Really, it doesn't matter. I mean, Jameson Williams should be able to. He has the talent to get away from pretty much anybody, and he does. but it ended up being disappointing. Again, the small details. We don't want him to step out of bounds, but I do think to a degree that we have to give credit to the Packers for the way that Edgerrin Cooper played it. In addition, Laporta was unable to get out in front to get to Cooper, to occupy him because of Micah Parsons' presence. Second possession still, this is the long possession that ends up in a field goal. And look, there's pressure from the Packers. It's a 5-man rush, and Goff is going to get the ball out of here quick. He's going to throw it to Gibbs. I covered this play in a film study video. It's an amazing job, if you ask me, by Edgerrin Cooper, who's fighting over the top of Laporta's shield block. And so what I mean is Laporta's getting an outside release, and he's just trying to prevent Cooper from getting over the top or even getting to Gibbs at all. Goff is getting rid of the ball quickly out here to the flats, but we're focusing on Jameson Williams here, and we'll go slow forward here. He ends up out of bounds. And so, yes, individually, as many of these plays, some of these plays, I should say, you say, well, Coach, you're being really harsh on Jameson Williams. How many of these plays where small details happen like this do we need to see before we say, hey, I just don't think he played to the standard that the Lions offense has and that we should have for him because of his talent level and now because of the salary structure that's been afforded to him. It's a really great play by Cooper, like I said. He comes downhill to go get Jahmyr Gibbs. How often, I said this in a film study video earlier in the week, how often have you seen Jahmyr Gibbs catch the ball out in the flats, make someone miss, and turn what could have been a 6-7 yard gain into a 12, 14, or even a 20? I think the offense needs to be sharper. We're talking about Jameson Williams here specifically. In my opinion, he needs to be better, like right now for this Lions team, but I think you can make an even larger statement there. Things have got to be sharper and tighter overall, starting with the offensive line. Williams won't be targeted here, still on that second possession. It's 3rd and 5 where they end up settling for a field goal. He's at the top side. He's going to run kind of like an in-cut, a deeper in-cut compared to the rest of the routes. Goff is going to initially look down here to St. Brown. Along with that, Gibbs is releasing out into the flats to the bottom side of our screen. You do get a really nice play here. And again, you have to give the Packers credit for some of these things. Van Ness is jamming up Reynolds and just disrupting routes. That just doesn't happen at the NFL level that often. Yes, you have guys that are press man corners. They disrupt. But there's very few times where NFL teams actually disrupt routes at the second level with inside linebackers or with DNs outside OLBs. And part of that is the NFL wants it that way. They don't want guys making contact. I saw 2 of the worst penalties last week that I could imagine called on inside linebackers for making contact like 6 yards down the field. In any case, Goff is looking down here at the bottom side to St. Brown. He's kind of jammed up. And when he comes back to the top side, for whatever reason, there's all this congestion. First of all, you got Van Ness in the middle, and then Reynolds, who was slowed up a little bit on his release by Van Ness. It makes it to where there's nothing available for Jameson Williams. He's not done nothing wrong here, he being Williams. A little bit of just not being on the same page for Goff and Laporta. Laporta doesn't go straight towards the sideline. He kind of starts to bend his route up a little bit to create a little bit more space. Doesn't realize, how open he is. And as a result, Goff's throw is just out in front. Circumstances on this play are, just disruptive from the standpoint of dealing with Reynolds' release. And then that actually kind of forced things to be clogged up over the middle. Like I said, I don't think Jameson Williams did anything wrong there. 3rd and 7 on the third possession, and I want to see Williams part of the read. And here's what I mean, okay? You at this point, you're thinking that Tesla is probably going to be the backside X or Laporta at times, but they're mixing it up. Sometimes it's St. Brown, sometimes it's Jameson Williams. Like I said, he's spot shadowed in yellow up here at the top. The route configuration that we're getting on this 3rd down, Reynolds is releasing over the middle. St. Brown kind of running a vertical. Who knows if with him some of these things are a read, and you're getting a snag from Jameson Williams underneath. It's not at the sticks. It's not at the line to gain. The line to gain is the 28, but he's part of the read, and I think that's important. Goff is looking there immediately. I usually use these like orangish brown lines to indicate where the quarterback is looking, and I think the home crowd this week needs a spark, whether that's a Williams touchdown early, a Gibbs catch and run early, a play by Tesla, I think would provide that type of energy. Defensively, something as well. like I said, this was a 3rd and 7, and so you settle for, creating a manageable 4th down that, ironically, Williams is actually the guy who converts. I'd like to see him involved early this week. That's the point in me bringing up, sparking the home crowd or something like that. You need to get to the 28. It's a 4th and 2 after the same short catch that I just showed you on a snag concept or a snag route by him. So this is mesh, all right? Now, there's a lot of colors going on here. Mesh, normally you get 2 underneath drag routes. In this case, it's St. Brown and Jameson Williams, and then Laporta kind of running the sit-down route in the middle of the field. I think it ends up being a little bit more towards the hash like that. The running back release, often referred to as a rail, is going to clear out this space down here. Oftentimes, that's the route that quarterbacks will throw, not to the running back, but it's to St. Brown, running on top of that space after the running back has essentially cleared it out. Goff got through his reads pretty quick here, and you'll actually hear a lot of that conversation as we get to the second part of this preview, which will be about Caleb Williams and the Bears offense. Walker goes with St. Brown on this route here. So Walker, it's man, okay? So it's man. There is someone assigned to St. Brown and man right here, but Quay Walker goes with him as well to try to help out with that. You can't blame him, right? It's a 4th and 2, so the defense, they want to take away St. Brown, and you can see what's developing here. Jameson Williams is running onto that space. His man is way behind. It's because of the mesh. It's because of the way that the concept works. It's not unstoppable, but it's borderline unstoppable at times. I don't care whether it's shorter routes, reverses, fake reverses. Just get Jameson Williams involved. We heard so much about him in camp. And this time, I want to see it. I want to see us prove it. I want to see the offense prove it. I think they will, but it's time, especially against the Bears. Here's the mesh concept from the end zone angle. The running back releasing out into the flats to their right or left, and you can see that's where Goff is looking originally. You check the running back real quick because, okay, is it covered? But really what I believe is the ultimate power of mesh is this route here that emanates from the other side of the field and runs onto that space that's cleared out by the running back. I kind of explained it from the L22 angle. If you don't think I covered it well enough, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Over here, you've got the running back, okay? You've also got Reynolds' release, which I didn't really show, and then Williams' route, which we know is going to, cross the field left to right for us, but right to left for the offense. But look how quick Goff goes through this. And that's, again, something I'm going to mention with Caleb Williams. I think a lot of people have interpreted things incorrectly for how he played last week. The second and third read are both right here together. They're crossing. They're meshing. And Goff gets to the correct one. It's Jameson Williams on an 11-yard gain. I want to see him more involved. I want to see it be intentional. I want to see his own personal execution be sharper. The run game is important. The offensive line has to play well. Not turning the ball over is obviously always a key factor. Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, are the guys that I think have got to get the ball in space this week as much as possible, in particular early. All of the guys from a personnel standpoint are needed to move the offense forward. It's John Morton's job to get this offense in full gear. It's time. It's time. In week 2, in my opinion, it's time. The Packers played exceptional on defense in week 1. They followed that up with playing really well against the Washington Commanders as well, but both of those games were at home in front of the home crowd, the home fan base. I think John Morton's got to get guys like Williams and Gibbs more involved and figure out a way to get them in space. The next part of this preview is going to cover some Caleb Williams film from last week against the Minnesota Vikings. And before we get into it, I'd like to make a statement that I think is quite general but also obvious. The Minnesota Vikings defense under Brian Flores is very multiple. They like to show you this and then play that. And then the next time show you that and play something totally separate and secondary. It's a very multiple defense, one that relies on obfuscation and giving the quarterback as many looks as possible and trying to confuse him. Now, having said that, we know that last year, 2024, and including 2023, Jared Goff shredded those looks. He's had great success against Brian Flores from a statistical standpoint. High percentage completions, touchdown to interception ratio great, as well as the win-loss record. Ben Johnson moved on to Chicago. We have to think that a lot of the understanding of Minnesota's defense and what you were going to see moved to Chicago with Ben Johnson, or copied itself over there, I should say. Jared Goff, John Morton, Dan Campbell are going to retain that information as well. My point is, I feel like Ben Johnson probably was able to make some of these reads more apparent for Caleb Williams and help him play faster and with more efficiency. I guess I should say more efficiency than most young quarterbacks are able to put on film against the Brian Flores defense that exists in Minnesota right now. So we're going to mostly focus on film from the first 2 possessions. Yes, that could be scripted material, scripted plays, but I think Caleb Williams is making pretty good decisions. I don't co-sign or copy what a lot of people have said about his play from last week, and these are the plays that I chose to try to illustrate that for you. So if you're a Lions fan and you're interested in what you might see, and I think things could be a little bit different from the standpoint of Detroit's defense is easier to figure out from a pre-snap to post-snap standpoint. Williams is looking up here. All right, so you've got your releases look like this. Moore was on this route often in week 1, so it'll be interesting to see if that's the route that that they rely on for him in week 2, because that would be more so like trying to beat a cover 2, and that's really kind of what they get here with a high safety. And Williams is going through these routes really quick. The Vikings want to take it away with the corner, and they do. In fact, I think it's Zacchaeus, number 14. And so Williams moved on pretty quick from this read, which I think is what some of the criticism about him is that he doesn't play within structure, doesn't go through his reads quick, takes too long to process. This was quick to me. And he moved down here to the running back in the bottom side of the screen faster than others. It's only a 3-yard gain, so is that a win for the offense? Is that a win for the defense? It might be a draw where Minnesota appeared to have a really nice call for the play. A really nice call for the routes being run. In light of the fact that they're bringing 4, maybe Caleb Williams in certain cases could hold on to the ball longer, but since that's been the criticism of him and what so many people have focused on, I think he did a pretty good job on that play. 2nd and 7, very next play, in fact, 12 personnel with the ball on the right hash. It's broken bunch. If you've never watched my videos, this is what I mean with the balls on the right hash. I try to use a blue line to illustrate it. So what you're getting here from a route standpoint, really unique, interesting usage for the field side tight end. He's kind of inserting into the C gap. This tight end stays into block the defensive end, however, unsuccessfully. There is immediate pressure on Caleb Williams by that defensive end that the tight end is dealing with. We're talking about down here, okay? So there's immediate or instant pressure on Caleb Williams on what appears to be a play-action concept. And this is sick. I'm not into evaluating players or people in general based upon reputation or what everyone else says. I didn't get time to do this video earlier in the week. It doesn't make sense to do the video earlier in the week. I want to put the previews out on Friday or Saturday. And I think he's playing well here early. He's play faking, and then as soon as he turns, the defensive end is in his face, able to juke him, number 1. And then, this is the tight end who inserted himself into C-gap post-snap. He's not open. This is, I believe, Moore to the top side. My apologies. I think that's actually Moore. And Williams is looking for the running back. It actually ends up being a pass like thrown behind. I think this is probably technically considered a run. I may be wrong there. It actually looks like it's forward. My point is, it's a weird football play. There was instant pressure on him, and he still turned it into something positive. In addition, the ball was thrown to the running back out in front of him to allow him to run forward. This is the opposite of what the defense wants to happen, specifically a Brian Flores defense. They want to confuse you, right, and turn what could be a positive play because of the design into a negative play. In my opinion, Caleb Williams actually did the opposite here. He turned what could have been a negative play, the pressure from the D end, into a positive play because they got the first down. I think that's worth mentioning, and that's kind of par for the course, at least what I saw here from the Williams film in the first 2 possessions. Still first possession. There's the line of scrimmage here. It's the plus 46-yard line. 12 personnel bunch closed, somewhat similar to the formation on the previous play. These 2 tight ends out of 12 personnel are going to kind of chip. They're going to help with the pass pro and then release into the flats. This is the route that I think they want, they being the Bears, off another play action concept. And you can see Williams executing the play fake, straight drop back off the play fake. And to me, his line of sight, what he appears to be looking at, I think I'll give you the end zone angle here in a moment, is this route here in the middle of the field. Those chip releases are to the outside. They're inconsequential. Looks like a clear out concept to me. I'm just not sure how people could criticize Williams for plays like this one where the linebacker gets a pretty good drop, in my opinion. I think it's Cashman, and basically sits right where this route would go. In addition, you have the threat of that safety possibly coming down on that route. Now, if you want to talk about Williams trying to get the ball out deeper down the field, go right ahead. In this case, everything was covered, in my opinion. It's he's seeing it quick, and we're talking about a Minnesota defense that is expert level in hiding their coverage from pre-snap to post-snap. Ball's already out to the running back. I think it's and because it's out so early, he's able to turn and juke the inside linebacker for, yes, another first down on a completion to the running back. People criticize checkdowns, fine, no problem. But I think in this game, he's actually getting through the reads so quick that the running backs are able to catch the ball in a way that gives them the opportunity to get yards after the catch, like you saw on this play. This is the same play from the end zone angle, by the way, and the previous one, the weirdly timed play where he threw it almost backwards, or I initially identified it as backwards. So there's where Williams is looking. Like I said, I think it's a deeper like dig or in-cut route over the middle of the field. I think he's already grabbed that read. I think he's already off that read and decided, okay, I'm going to probably have to throw this down. And because, check this down, because he got the ball out so quickly, the running back has a two-way go. He could press to the outside, towards the sideline maybe, or downhill, like this yellow arrow, or cut it back, which we know is what he does, and he gets a first down. I think it was like a 2nd and 6 there. My point is, well, look, do this if you're interested. Yes, a bunch of checkdowns, and I'm praising them. Go look at what smarter quarterback analysts than me have said. I don't know what they've said. I didn't get time to go through this film until Friday night into Saturday morning, and so I don't know what those analysts have said. So compare what I am saying to what they did, and I also recognize that these could be scripted plays, if you will, and maybe Williams didn't play good in the middle third of the game, when the game wasn't scripted. I'm not sure about that. That's just something I speculated on based on the criticism that's been out there on social media from everyone else. Nonetheless, this is a brilliant throw. The target eventually is going to be this route here, coming all the way across the field. The initial design, I think, is to go to this route or more on. It's basically double drag, double slant, if whatever you want to call it. The ball is on the right hash, and I know from watching Ben Johnson's offense in Detroit for a couple of years, he loves to attack to the boundary down here, and I think that's where this is designed to go. The running back and the tight end have alternated or switched, inverted, I guess, with the tight end in the backfield and the running back, in this case Swift, set out wide. Williams is definitely, if you ask me, looking down here to the bottom side of the screen for the second of these two in cuts. Moore is the first one, number 2. And then 14, Zacchaeus, who's a good little slot receiver, if you ask me. It's nice to see him getting an opportunity, Zacchaeus, to play somewhere besides the slot at times. In any case, it's short-sighted, in my opinion, to say that Williams is leaving the pocket quick here, because look at what's happening to the right guard. There's absolutely quick pressure in terms of the defensive tackle walking the right guard back. I felt like the right guard looked to me like he had some problems in this game. I don't even know who that is, to be honest with you. I know the left guard is, I think, Thuney. But in this case, right where Williams was looking, down here, is where the guard gets pushed, back into his lap. And so sometimes people say, well, that's not a pressure. The right guard, was able to anchor down. Okay, fine. But because of where the read is, where he's looking initially, that can cause a quarterback to, quote, leave the pocket early. This is a sick throw, man. Running out to his right, being chased. He's right-handed, so obviously it helps. And then this is the throw to Odunze, a wide receiver, number 15. I think it's a sick football play, and I recognize that maybe some Lions fans won't like me saying this. When I watched the first 2 possessions of this Caleb Williams film, I thought, what in the heck are other people talking about? But in any case, here's the route or the play from the end zone angle, and you can see that he's going to look down here to this kind of double in cut or double drag. Cashman is the guy who ends up pressuring, I think, later as he scrambles. So Williams is looking for Zacchaeus off screen, number 14, like I said a moment ago. He comes back to another read, so 1, 2, and then because of this pressure right here by number 97, I thought that was Harrison Smith, or Harrison Phillips, but then I realized he's gone now to the Jets. And then Williams is out of there because of that pressure. He didn't leave the pocket early. The pocket got pushed back into his lap. I think this is a brilliant play. I think this is a great example of someone making something out of nothing. And what I mean is there's no one open initially. The pocket is pushed back into his lap by the defensive tackle, and now he's made another first down out of a play that could have been, some would say should have been, a negative. I don't think he's leaving the pocket early here. I don't think on this film, at least what I've shown you so far, you're seeing a guy who can't play within structure. In fact, in this play, he went through the structure. 1, the read. 2, the other read I showed you. And then because of the D-tackle pressure that was, within his vision, he moved out of there and made a nice play. I think you're looking at film of a guy who, at least early, was playing well. Still first possession, and it's a 3rd and goal. In fact, there's a late, I think, recognition of this motion by Metellus. Sometimes I wonder if, he plays so many positions, 44, that maybe at times it's almost overwhelming, meaning he's got so many responsibilities. Adunze is running a little in cut, kind of a whip, China in, whatever you want to call it, by Zacchaeus, and then Moore, once again, running pretty much the same route I saw 6 or 7 times this game. Williams appears to be looking to the top side of the screen, within the framework of these 2 lines. It's a 3-man rush by the Vikings. And once again, you do get, some pressure. In this case, it's the defensive tackle to the top side against Thuney. And so Williams has to kind of slide to his right a little bit and reset. And because it's a 3-man rush, you've got, a couple of extra droppers, or at least one. And these guys are kind of in the windows a little bit. Like I said, the second time in this video that I've shown you where there's D-tackle pressure against a guard, Williams is looking for places to go with the football. In this case, doesn't think he finds any and takes off. Metellus, 44, the same guy who looked, a little lost by the motion. I wonder if he's supposed to let that route by the tight end go to the inside, talking about here, and then hold and fold, basically hold and then react. The safety could definitely take this one over. I don't know that. It's just something I wonder about when I watch Williams escape to the exact place where Metellus 44 just was. But again, it could have been man, which is why he went in motion with the tight end originally. The routes that were run, allowed Williams to run onto the space. I think it's an impressive first drive. Maybe I'm way off base here. People, Lions fans certainly, can say, man, I wish you wouldn't talk glowingly about Williams here in a game when he was 21 of 35 for only 210 passing yards, right? But I think is a really good example of him actually playing within the structure and making positive plays, getting a draw where it could have been a loss, getting a win where it could have been a draw or a loss. And like I said, if you want a more complete evaluation, I would go, find more experienced or higher level QB analysts than me to kind of confirm or deny some of the things that I'm saying. But, we're really close to the week 2 game, so really at this point, from your perspective, what does it matter? Second possession, I think I got 2 more plays here. It's a 1st and 10, 12 personnel, and they did like 12 personnel in this game. So the routes, one of the tight ends is going to kind of insert in the same manner that he did earlier when he was stationary as a slot receiver. You're getting kind of this deeper sit-down route in the middle of the field. Once again, it's off play action, this time from under center. Very familiar to a lot of the stuff that we saw Goff do under Ben Johnson's offense the last couple of years. Focus on the running back here for a moment. He's kind of located in here, helping with the pass pro for a moment. And then this is the route I think that Williams is possibly looking for, and or, this type of deeper curl. Well, what's open? You've got a pretty good drop, if you ask me, by the inside linebacker, Cashman. Here, sitting on top of that route like I said, or sitting underneath that route, that I think Williams is looking for. And then he kind of glances over here to this side for whatever reason, really quickly. I think he's getting through the reads quick, dumps it down to the running back. Now, it's a win for the defense, clearly. They're playing a zone structure. And so as a result, once the ball is checked down to the running back, everyone's able to rally. They got overwhelming speed, the Vikings, when they can stop you from your first and second read, and then when you have to check things down. And that's my point, is that I feel like in the first couple of possessions here, Williams has actually been successful against them. They got a touchdown on the first drive by throwing to the running backs late after he's gone through his first and second read. I don't know that he'll be forced to his second and third read by the Lions defense, because the coverages generally post-snap is exactly what was shown pre-snap as well. This is an instant loss for the right guard against the defensive tackle for the Vikings. I'm not ascertaining the total quality of the right guard, but second time in this film, where he's had real trouble from a pass protection standpoint. I think Williams was looking here initially to Odunze, and it's one of the things I hate about football analysis now is that, like, screenshots don't work, okay? So if you took a screenshot from, like, the end zone angle, and you'll see it from here in a moment, Odunze is, like, running past this guy, but you have to have some context. And so the context is Williams senses or sees the pressure from 93 and knows I've got to deal with this guy. If you don't believe me, he steps up in order to step back. And I think he has awareness of the D tackle like now and knows, okay, I got to get out of here. To me, this is a young guy dealing with pressure. It's man played to the backside, by the way. It's man here, and everything else up here is zone. So it's just some people would refer to it as a split field coverage. I'm not sure that I do. I generally refer to split field coverages as quarters-based coverages, where you're reading one, the left side is reading one thing and the right side is reading something else. But if you want to refer to it as a split field coverage, go right ahead, because it's man to the boundary and then zone to the field. These guys are dropping out of here. Not sure how much you guys can see within the frame of Van Ginkel. Those guys are dropping out of here. Oh, by the way, there's man on the running back by pace. And it, to me, looks like Williams is possibly trying to examine what's going to happen here with Odunze and Cashman. Defensive tackle has already, I think, swam past the right guard. And then Williams has got to try to make something out of nothing once again. Do I think the Lions are going to play the quality of defense that the Vikings did? Sure. There's no reason why Kelvin Shepard's defense can't come out and play better than they did last week. I just don't think Caleb Williams played poorly against Minnesota's defense, given all the different looks that are there, going 21 of 35. Now, you could say Coach Odunze, I think, had 6 catches for 37 yards, something like that. So you're talking about low yards per target and low yards per catch for, his biggest receiver, Moore as well. And I get it, there's other throws that people have focused on, and I'll talk about them here briefly. You've got the overthrow of Moore in the fourth quarter. I mean, that ball's overthrown by 2.5 to 3 yards. I get it. One thing I will say is that overthrow of Moore in the fourth quarter was preceded by a sick, layered throw up the right seam to Kmet, the tight end. A one-handed catch, in fact, over the second level in front of the DB level. Yeah, he overthrew Moore on the corner fade. I would say apply 2 of the yards to Williams and 1 to Moore, because Moore didn't stay in fifth gear there. There's another throw on that drive where he actually hits Moore, who gets stung by a safety. It's a sticks blitz 0. It's a great throw. Moore got hurt on the play. Fortunately for the Bears, it wasn't a fumble, but they called roughing on the play. And then you have the gutsy scramble in the very next snap for a 14-yard touchdown that was called back and then followed up with a 1-yard score to Odunze. I just didn't see a guy playing poorly. You may have tuned in to want me to say that, to want to hear me say that. That's just not what I saw, at least on the first 2 possessions and some of the stuff in the fourth quarter. The Lions defense just does not bring the same level of obfuscation and altering the structure of the defense post-snap that the Vikings do. So from that standpoint, I expect the ball to be out quicker. Am I saying that he'll be successful? No, I'm just saying I don't know that. I'm just saying the ball will be out quicker. I don't anticipate as many checkdowns to the running backs because he won't be slowed up, or if you want to be negative, confused by the coverage that is played post-snap. It's essentially hidden in a whole lot better fashion, a whole lot more efficiently by the Flores Vikings group because they're experienced at it. You're welcome to have a different opinion, but that's just what I see. In terms of who's got the most pressure on them, I think it's Kelvin Shepard. I think Morton has so much talent on offense that he's got pressure as well, right? And he should produce some more points, more consistent run game, in my opinion. But because this is the second week in a row where I'll presume that the offensive play caller has a good idea of what coverages they're going to get in each situation, I do wonder if early on we're going to see a high level of efficiency from Caleb Williams and from the Bears offense. And I could be way wrong. I'm just equating it to the Packers in this way. The Packers, to me, had a great idea of how to attack the Lions' coverage, and I wonder if the Bears will as well, for many reasons. It seems like Kelvin Shepherd is running the same coverage patterns that were run in the last couple of years under Aaron Glenn. And because of Ben Johnson's familiarity with that system, it stands to reason to me that he'll probably have a pretty good plan early on for attacking this defense. And I could be way wrong, and you're more than welcome to let me know if you disagree in the comment section. Am I saying that I think Caleb Williams is going to come out there and have better stats than last week? I have no idea. I just didn't think that the play early in the first 2 possessions lined up with a guy who played really poorly and is rejecting or failing in Ben Johnson's system. I didn't see that, but things could turn out vastly differently than I'm describing or projecting on Sunday. Really looking forward to the game. Hopefully both offensive coordinators, for the Lions that is, come in with a great game plan and are able to get a win and hopefully get on top of this Bears team, make them one-dimensional. In any case, if you guys do appreciate my previews, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Excuse me. I recognize that I spent more time talking about Caleb Williams, but I would like to improve my quarterback analysis and what I am able to understand. And so from that standpoint, I would highly suggest, if you agree or disagree with some of the things I said, go look at other evaluations of Caleb Williams from last week and compare what they said to what I talked about here. I appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this preview of their home matchup against the Bears in Week 2, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.